If you enjoy stories about standing your ground, family boundaries, and unexpected twists, please hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and comment your thoughts below. Your support keeps these stories coming. I'm 61 years old, and I'll never forget the moment my daughter-in-law screamed those words at me. It was a Saturday afternoon in June 2023, and I was sitting in my favorite chair reading the newspaper when she burst through my front door without knocking. "They're moving in, like it or not," Melissa shouted, her face red with anger. Behind her stood my son Craig, looking uncomfortable but silent. "Your house is big enough. We need a place to stay while we save money. This is happening." I looked at Craig, my only child, the boy I'd raised alone after his mother died when he was 8. He was 33 now, married to Melissa for 2 years. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Craig," I said quietly, "is this what you want?" "Dad, we're having financial trouble," he muttered. "Melissa thinks staying here for a few months would help us get back on our feet." "A few months?" I repeated. "And you didn't think to ask me first?" "Just a man." Melissa crossed her arms. "This house has 4 bedrooms. You live here alone. It's selfish to refuse family when they need help." I nodded slowly, my mind already forming a plan. "Okay, you can move in." Melissa looked surprised that I'd agreed so easily. She didn't know what I was actually planning. Let me back up and explain something important. This house wasn't just any house. It was a house my late wife Jennifer and I had built together in 1995. Every board, every nail, every detail had been chosen with love and care. Jennifer died of cancer in 2008 when Craig was 18. I'd raised him alone through his college years, working double shifts as a construction foreman to pay his tuition. I'd given him everything, including the down payment for his first apartment. But Melissa had changed Craig. Within 6 months of their marriage, he'd become distant. He stopped visiting except when he needed money. Melissa always had an excuse why they couldn't come to Sunday dinners or holiday gatherings. I tried to like Melissa. I really had. But she was demanding, entitled, and had a nasty habit of talking down to service workers and anyone she considered beneath her. She treated Craig like he was her assistant rather than her partner. And now she was demanding to move into my home without even asking politely, just assuming I complied because family. What Melissa didn't know was that I owned 3 other properties around the city, rental units I'd invested in over 20 years. I kept this information private, living simply, saving quietly. She thought I was just a retired construction worker living in a house too big for him. She had no idea who she was dealing with. "When do you want to move in?" I asked calmly. "This weekend." Melissa said, "We've already given notice at our apartment." So they decided this before even telling me. "Interesting. Which bedroom do you want?" I asked. "The master," Melissa said immediately. "It's the biggest. You can take one of the smaller rooms." I glanced at Craig. He still wouldn't look at me. My son was going to let his wife kick me out of my own bedroom, the room I'd shared with his mother. "I see," I said quietly. "Let me think about the logistics. Moving furniture around will take time." "We can help," Melissa said, though her tone suggested she wouldn't actually be doing any physical work. "Craig will move your stuff. Right, honey?" Craig finally looked up. "Dad, I'm sorry. I know this is sudden." "It's fine," I interrupted. "Family helps family, right?" That's what Melissa said. I saw relief flash across Craig's face. He thought I was just going to roll over and accept this. That evening, after they left to start packing, I made several phone calls. First to my property manager, Gary, then to my lawyer, Howard, then to my accountant, Patricia. By midnight, I had a plan in place. Melissa wanted to move in? Fine. But she was about to learn a very expensive lesson about respect. Monday morning, I started implementing phase 1 my plan. I called a moving company and had them come assess my furniture. "I need you to move everything from a master bedroom to storage unit 247. I told them, this Friday. The Jennifer's wedding china, her photo albums, my personal documents, everything that mattered, all going into secure storage. Melissa would get an empty master bedroom with just a bed frame and mattress. Everything else would be gone. I also went to my bank and changed the deed of the house. The property was now held in a trust with specific terms. My lawyer, Howard, had drafted it perfectly. George, are you sure about this? Howard had asked when I explained my plan. This is pretty extreme. Melissa is about to learn that demanding things doesn't work with me. I'd replied, I'm not being cruel. I'm teaching a lesson about respect. Wednesday, I went to each of my rental properties and spoke with my tenants. Rent increase coming next month. I told them, market rates have gone up, but I'll grandfather in your current rate if you're interested in a longer lease. Most agreed immediately. My properties were well maintained and fairly priced. Locking in the rate made sense for them. This was important because Melissa and Craig lived in one of my rental units. They didn't know I owned it. Gary managed it under our LLC name, but their lease was up in 30 days. Friday arrived. Melissa and Craig showed up a U-Haul truck full of their belongings. I was sitting on the porch, drinking lemonade, watching the moving company finish loading my furniture into their truck. What's happening? Melissa demanded. Why is furniture leaving? You wanted the master bedroom. I said calmly. I'm clearing it out for you. Everything's going into storage. I meant we'd use the room with your furniture, she said, annoyed. Now we have to move our bedroom set in. That'll be good exercise. I replied, need help? Craig looked confused but started unloading boxes. Melissa directed him like a foreman, pointing and criticizing. Careful with that lamp. Don't scratch the doorframe. Why are you so clumsy? I watched my son take her verbal abuse and said nothing. Yet, by evening, they were moved in. Melissa had taken over the master bedroom, the main bathroom, and half the living room with her decorations. She'd already rearranged my kitchen and complained about my outdated appliances. George, we need to talk about house rules, Melissa announced over dinner. First, I'll be doing the grocery shopping. You can contribute $200 a week for food. $200 a week? I repeated. For 3 people? I eat organic, she said, like this explained everything. Also, I work from home, so I'll need the house quiet between 9 and 5. No TV, no loud projects. I nodded. Anything else? Yes, we'll split utilities 3 ways. That's fair. I almost laughed. She wanted me to pay for utilities in my own house, but I kept my expression neutral. That sounds reasonable. I lied. Over the next week, Melissa's true colors showed fully. She treated my home like a hotel, left dishes in the sink for me to wash, complained about every meal I cooked, criticized the water pressure, the internet speed, the neighborhood noise. Craig was working long hours at his accounting firm, leaving early and coming home late, which meant I was alone with Melissa most days. She'd talk on the phone loudly during her work hours, laughing with friends about how she'd finally got the old man to let us move in rent-free. Rent-free. She thought she wasn't paying anything. That was about to change. 2 weeks after they moved in, I received a call from Gary. George, the tenants at the Oak Street property gave notice. They're moving out next month. Oak Street was where Melissa and Craig had been living. Their apartment. Don't list it yet. I told Gary I have plans for that unit. I also started documenting everything. Melissa's mess, her demands, her treatment of Craig. I set up small security cameras in common areas of my house. Completely legal since I owned the property. I wanted evidence of what was happening. The cameras captured Melissa inviting friends over without asking me, throwing small parties while Craig worked late, using my good whiskey and not replacing it. One evening, I overheard Melissa on the phone in the kitchen. I was in my small bedroom, the guest room I'd moved into, and her voice carried through the walls. No, George is easy to manage, she was saying. He does whatever we want. Craig was worried his dad would be difficult, but he's just a lonely old man grateful for the company. A lonely old man. That stung, even though I knew it was just her arrogance talking. We'll probably stay here at least a year, she continued. Maybe longer. Why pay rent when we can live free? Craig's dad isn't going anywhere. This house will be Craig's eventually anyway. She was planning to stay indefinitely, and she'd already decided my house was essentially theirs. That night, I called Howard again. Move to phase 2. I told him, "You're sure about this, George?" "Completely sure. Melissa needs to learn that respect isn't optional. It's required." The next morning, I handed Melissa and Craig an envelope at breakfast. "What's this?" Craig asked. "A rental agreement," I said calmly. "You've been here 3 weeks. I need to formalize the arrangement." Melissa's face went red. "A rental agreement? We're family." "Exactly," I replied, "which is why I'm only charging you $1,200 a month. That's well below market rate for a master bedroom and full house privileges. We're not paying you rent." Melissa shouted, "That's ridiculous." "Then you'll need to find somewhere else to live," I said simply. Craig looked panicked. "Dad, we can't afford $1,200 a month right now. That's why we're here, to save money." "Then perhaps you should explain to Melissa that saving money doesn't mean living completely free," I suggested. "I have bills, property taxes, maintenance, insurance. Those don't disappear because you moved in. This is your house." Melissa argued, "You'd have those expenses whether we were here or not." "True," I agreed, "but I wouldn't have higher utility bills, higher grocery costs, or wear and tear on my furniture and appliances. I'm being more than fair." "We'll pay $600, Melissa countered. "That's our final offer." I shook my head. $1,200 or you find somewhere else. Those are your options." Melissa stormed out of the room. Craig stayed, looking at me with confusion. "Dad, why are you doing this? I thought you were okay with us staying here." "I am okay with you staying," I said, "but not with being taken advantage of, not with being treated like a doormat in my own home. Your wife has been disrespectful since the moment she arrived. She needs to learn that actions have consequences." "She's just stressed," Craig defended weakly. "Craig, she called me a lonely old man on the phone yesterday. I said I'm easy to manage. Said you'd inherit this house anyway, so why not take advantage now?" Craig's face paled. "She said that?" "Among other things. Son, I love you, but I won't be disrespected in my own home." That evening, Craig and Melissa had a huge fight. I could hear it through the walls, even though I tried not to listen. Melissa was furious that Craig wasn't standing up to his father. Craig was frustrated that Melissa had put them in this position. "We should have just asked nicely." Craig yelled, "We should have offered to pay something from the start. But you insisted we just demand, and he'd have to accept it. He's your father." Melissa shot back. "He should want to help us for free." Helping and being taken advantage of are different things. The fight went on for over an hour. Finally, I heard their bedroom door slam. The next morning, Craig approached me alone. "Dad, Melissa and I talked. We'll pay $800 a month. That's all we can afford." I considered this. $800 was still below market rate, but it showed some willingness to compromise. "Okay, $800, but there are conditions." "What conditions?" "First, Melissa cleans up after herself. No more leaving dishes or messes for me. Second, she asks before having guests over. This is still my house. Third, respectful communication. No more screaming or demands. We're adults. We can talk civilly." Craig nodded eagerly. "Done. I'll make sure she agrees." One more thing. I added, the rental agreement is month to month. If the arrangement isn't working, either party can end it with 30 days' notice. Craig hesitated, but agreed. Fair enough. For the next 2 weeks, there was an uneasy peace. Melissa cleaned up after herself, though she did it with obvious resentment. She stopped having friends over constantly. She even made dinner twice, though she complained the entire time about my limited ingredients. Craig seemed relieved that the tension had decreased. He started coming home earlier, spending more time in our shared spaces rather than hiding in the bedroom. But I could tell Melissa was seething underneath. She'd smile tightly when she saw me. She'd make passive-aggressive comments about the house being dated or needing updates. She was complying with the letter of our agreement, but not the spirit. I also noticed she was spending a lot of time on her laptop, looking at apartments and houses for rent. Good. She was realizing this arrangement wasn't the free ride she'd expected. Then one evening, Melissa approached me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "George, Craig and I have been talking. We think we should all sit down and discuss the future." "What future?" I asked. "Well, this house is quite large, and honestly, it's getting old. It needs updates. New kitchen, new bathrooms. Maybe open up some walls for a more modern floor plan." I stared at her. "You want to renovate my house?" "Think of it as an investment," she said brightly. "Craig will inherit it eventually anyway. Why not make it nicer now, so we can all enjoy it?" I couldn't believe her audacity. She'd moved into my house, demanded free rent, and now wanted to renovate it to her taste. "Melissa, let me be very clear," I said slowly. "This is my house. I built it with my late wife. Every detail was chosen by us. I'm not changing anything." "But George, it's so outdated. The kitchen is from the 90s. "Because that's when Jennifer and I designed it, and it stays exactly as it is." Melissa's fake smile disappeared. "You're being stubborn. Craig agrees with me that updates would be good." "Then Craig can say that to my face," I replied, but the answer will still be no. That night, Craig did try to convince me. "Dad, the house really could use some updates. Just small things. Maybe new countertops." "No," I said firmly. "Son, I know Melissa is pushing this, but this house is not a renovation project. It's my home. It's full of memories of your mother. I'm not changing it." Craig looked frustrated. "She's just trying to make it nicer." "She's trying to erase your mother," I corrected. "Maybe she doesn't realize that's what she's doing, but that's the effect, and I won't allow it." Craig left the conversation angry, but I'd drawn my line. Some things were non-negotiable. The next day, while Craig was at work, Melissa approached me again. This time she was direct. "George, I'm going to be honest. I don't think this living arrangement is working." "I agree," I said. She looked surprised. "You do?" "Yes. I think it's time you and Craig found your own place again." Melissa's eyes narrowed. "We can't afford to move right now. We're still saving." "How much have you saved in the 6 weeks you've been here?" I asked. She didn't answer, which told me everything. They hadn't saved anything. The $800 a month they were paying me was probably eating into their budget more than expected. "I'll tell you what," I said. "I'll give you 90 days instead of 30. 3 months to find a place and save up for deposits and moving costs. That's generous." 3 months isn't enough time. Melissa protested. "It'll have to be. This arrangement isn't working for any of us. You're unhappy here. I'm uncomfortable in my own home. Craig is caught in the middle. Better to part ways now before resentment builds further." Melissa stood up, hands on her hips. "You're kicking out your own son?" "I'm giving my son and his wife 90 days notice to find their own place. That's not kicking out. That's being clear about boundaries." "Wait until Craig hears about this," she threatened. "Please do tell him. I'll tell him the same thing tonight." That evening, the conversation with Craig went about as expected. He was upset, defensive, torn between loyalty to me and to his wife. But underneath, I could see relief. He knew the situation wasn't healthy either. "Dad, I don't understand why you're doing this," Craig said. "We're family." "Craig, answer me honestly. Are you happy here?" He hesitated. "It's complicated." "Exactly," I said gently. "You're 33 years old. You should be building your own life in your own space with your wife, not living in your father's house, following rules your wife resents." "But we're trying to save money." "Are you?" I interrupted. "Have you actually saved anything in the 6 weeks you've been here? Or has Melissa found other things to spend money on?" Craig's silence was telling. "Son, I love you, but I won't enable a situation that's making all of us miserable. You have 90 days. I'll help you find a place if you want. I'll even help with the deposit if you need it. But you can't stay here indefinitely." Craig left the conversation looking defeated. Part of me felt guilty, but mostly I felt like I was doing the right thing for all of us. Over the next few days, Melissa's behavior deteriorated. She stopped cleaning up after herself again. She made snide comments constantly. She told Craig that I was being cruel and heartless for giving them a deadline. But Craig surprised me. Instead of taking her side completely, he started looking at apartments. He brought home rental listings. He talked about their budget seriously for the first time. Maybe Dad's right. I heard him tell Melissa one night. Maybe we need our own space. We've been married 2 years, and we've never really had our own place without roommates or now living with family. We could have our own space here if your dad would just be reasonable. Melissa argued. Melissa, this is his house. He's being more than reasonable letting us stay this long. I was proud of Craig for standing up to her, even slightly. It was the first time I'd heard him push back on her demands. But Melissa wasn't done trying to manipulate the situation. A week later, she announced she was pregnant. Craig was overjoyed. Dad, you're going to be a grandfather. This changes everything, right? We can't move now with a baby coming. I looked at Melissa. Her expression was triumphant. She thought this news would force me to let them stay indefinitely. Congratulations, I said sincerely. That's wonderful news. When are you due? February, Melissa said. 7 months away. So obviously we need to stay here until after the baby comes. Moving during pregnancy would be too stressful. Women move during pregnancy all the time. I replied, you have 90 days. That means you'll be in your own place with 3 months to prepare before the baby arrives. That's plenty of time. Melissa's face fell. You're still making us leave? Even with your grandchild coming. I'm not making you do anything. I corrected. I'm maintaining the boundary I set. You knew this arrangement was temporary. The pregnancy doesn't change that. You're heartless. Melissa yelled. What kind of grandfather turns away his pregnant daughter-in-law? The kind who knows that you need your own home to raise a child in. I said calmly. The kind who understands that living with your father-in-law isn't a sustainable long-term solution. You'll be better off in your own space. Craig looked torn, but he didn't argue with my logic. The truth was, I was genuinely excited about becoming a grandfather, but I wasn't going to let Melissa use the pregnancy as emotional blackmail to stay in my house indefinitely. That night, I called Howard again. Phase 3, I told him. Is everything ready? Everything's in place, Howard confirmed. Are you sure about this, George? Once you do this, there's no going back. I'm sure. Melissa needs to learn that manipulation doesn't work. And Craig needs to learn to stand on his own. Over the next 3 weeks, Melissa and Craig looked at dozens of apartments. Most were either too expensive or too small. Melissa rejected anything that wasn't perfect. We can't raise a baby in a 1-bedroom, she complained. We need at least 2 bedrooms, maybe 3 for a nursery and an office. Then you need to adjust your budget. I'd point out, 3-bedroom apartments in good neighborhoods aren't cheap, which is why staying here makes more sense. Melissa would counter every time, but I didn't budge. The 90-day deadline was approaching. They had 2 weeks left. Finally, Craig found a decent 2-bedroom apartment in a safe neighborhood. It was $800 a month, the same they'd been paying me, plus utilities. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean, recently renovated, and had good reviews from current tenants. I think we should take it, Craig told Melissa. The location is good, the price is fair, and it's available immediately. But it's so small, Melissa complained. The bedrooms are tiny. It's what we can afford, Craig said firmly. We need to be realistic. I was proud of him for standing his ground. Melissa pouted, but eventually agreed. They submitted an application. 3 days later, I got a call from Gary. George, you won't believe this. Your son and daughter-in-law just applied for the Oak Street property. Oak Street, my rental property. The one they'd lived in before moving in with me. They were trying to rent their old apartment back. What did you tell them? I asked. Nothing yet. I wanted to check with you first. Do you want to approve their application? I thought about it carefully. This was the moment of truth. I could approve them and continue collecting rent from them, which would be profitable. Or I could reject them and maintain complete separation. Approve them, I decided, but at full market rate. No family discount. And standard lease terms, 1-year commitment, proper deposits, everything by the book. That's going to be about $1,400 a month, Gary warned. Are you sure? I'm sure. They need to learn that independence comes with costs. And Craig needs to step up as a provider, not rely on Dad's generosity. Gary processed their application. They were approved but shocked at the price. $1,400? Melissa shrieked when they got the approval. That's way more than we were paying before. The market's gone up, Craig said, reading the letter. And we don't have our security deposit from when we left. We have to start fresh. They scrambled to come up with first month's rent, last month's rent, and security deposit. Their 90 days at my house were almost up. They'd be moving out in 3 days. But Melissa had one more card to play. George, she said sweetly, approaching me while Craig was at work. I need to talk to you about something important. What is it? Well, Craig and I have been struggling financially. You know that. And with the baby coming, we're worried about making ends meet. She paused dramatically. I was hoping you might consider helping us out, maybe covering our rent for the first few months in the new place. I stared at her. The audacity was breathtaking. No. Just like that. Melissa, you're adults. You're about to be parents. It's time to stand on your own feet. I've given you a place to stay at below market rates. I gave you 90 days notice instead of 30. I'm not going to subsidize your rent indefinitely. But we're family, she cried, tears suddenly appearing. Don't you want your grandchild to have a stable home? Your grandchild will have a stable home when you and Craig work together to provide it. I replied, that doesn't require my money. It requires your effort and responsibility. The tears disappeared as quickly as they'd come. Melissa's face hardened. You're just a bitter old man who can't stand seeing other people happy. Craig should have never introduced me to you. Perhaps, I agreed, but I'm a bitter old man with boundaries, and you're about to learn what happens when you push someone too far. Melissa stomped away, but I wasn't done with my surprises yet. Moving day arrived. Craig and Melissa packed their belongings into a rental truck. The house felt lighter the moment their furniture was carried out. Quieter, more peaceful. Craig hugged me goodbye. Thanks for letting us stay, Dad. I know it wasn't easy. I love you, son, I said honestly, but I'm glad you're building your own life now. You'll be better for it. I hope so, Craig said. He glanced at Melissa, who was directing movers with sharp commands. I hope she calms down once we're settled. She might, I said, or she might not, but that's between you two now. After they left, I walked through my empty house. The master bedroom was mine again. The living room was arranged the way I liked it. The kitchen was quiet. I sat in my favorite chair and called Howard. It's done. They're out. Good. Are you ready for the next part? I am. Let's proceed. That evening, Gary called Craig with an interesting piece of information. Mr. Thompson, I need to inform you that the Oak Street property has been sold. The new owner is honoring existing leases, but going forward, all rent payments should be made to Patterson Property Holdings, LLC. There was silence on the other end. Then Craig's voice, confused. Patterson Property Holdings? Is that my dad's company? I can't comment on ownership structures, Gary said professionally, but all future payments should go to that entity. You'll receive updated payment information shortly. Craig called me within minutes. Dad, do you own the apartment we just rented? I own several properties around the city. I confirmed. Oak Street is one of them. You've owned it the whole time? Even when we lived there before? Yes. I bought it about 15 years ago as an investment property. So we've been paying you rent this whole time without knowing it? You've been paying market rate rent to a property management company. I corrected. The fact that I own the building is irrelevant to your lease terms. Craig was silent, processing. Did you raise our rent on purpose? Because we moved in with you? No. Gary adjusts all my properties to market rates annually. Your timing of moving out happened to coincide with that increase. That's not personal. That's business. But Dad... Craig, I'm going to stop you there. You're paying fair market rent for a decent apartment. The money goes into my investment portfolio, which will eventually be part of your inheritance. In a roundabout way, you're investing in your own future. But more importantly, you're learning to manage your finances independently. That's valuable. Craig didn't know what to say. Finally, does Melissa know? I imagine you're about to tell her, I replied. That should be an interesting conversation. It was. Melissa called me screaming 40 minutes later. You manipulated us. You tricked us into paying you rent. This is financial abuse. Melissa, you filled out a rental application for an apartment, I said calmly. You were approved based on your qualifications. You're paying the listed rent. How is that manipulation? You could have told us you owned it. You could have given us a discount. Why would I? You're not entitled to discounts just because we're related. You wanted independence and your own space. I'm providing that at fair market rates. You're a horrible person. Melissa yelled. Wait until Craig's lawyer hears about this. Craig's lawyer will tell him what mine already told me, that everything I've done is completely legal. You're renting an apartment. I own that apartment. Those two facts don't create any legal obligation for me to discount your rent or disclose ownership. Melissa hung up on me, but the calls kept coming over the next few days. From Craig, confused and frustrated. From Melissa, angry and accusatory. Even from Melissa's mother, who called to tell me I was being unfair to young people trying to start their lives. I listened politely to all of them and didn't change my position. The truth was, I wasn't being cruel. I was being a businessman and a father. Craig needed to learn financial responsibility. He needed to understand that life has costs, that adulthood means standing on your own feet, not expecting handouts from family. Melissa needed to learn that demanding things doesn't work, that respect is required, not optional, that treating people badly has consequences, and I needed to reclaim my home and my peace. 3 months passed. Craig and Melissa settled into their apartment. The pregnancy progressed normally. They paid their rent on time every month. Gary was strict about late fees, and they learned quickly. Craig started visiting me again on Sundays, alone. Melissa refused to come to my house. That was fine with me. Craig and I rebuilt our relationship slowly, talking honestly for first time in years. Dad, I'm sorry, Craig said one Sunday afternoon, for how Melissa treated you, for not standing up to her, for taking advantage of your generosity. You were caught in a difficult position. I acknowledged, but you've handled the last few months well. You're managing your finances, taking responsibility. I'm proud of you. It's been hard, Craig admitted. Really hard. Between the rent and saving for the baby and Melissa's spending, I'm working overtime just to keep up. Is Melissa working? She says her pregnancy makes her too tired. She quit her job 2 months ago. That explained why money was tight. Craig, you need to have a serious conversation with her about finances, about both of you contributing. A marriage is a partnership. I know. I've tried. She just says I'm being unsupportive during her pregnancy. I could see the stress on my son's face. Part of me wanted to help financially, but I knew that wouldn't solve the underlying problem. Craig needed to figure this out himself. The baby's due in 6 weeks, Craig continued. I'm excited but terrified. What if I can't provide? What if I'm not a good father? You'll figure it out, I assured him. Parenthood is learning on the job. Nobody knows what they're doing at first. February arrived with Colorado's typical cold. Craig called me at 2 a.m. Dad, it's time. We're heading to the hospital. I met them there 3 hours later. Melissa was in labor. Craig by her side looking nervous and exhausted. I waited in the waiting room, pacing, remembering when Jennifer had given birth to Craig 33 years ago. At 9:47 a.m., my grandson was born. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Healthy and perfect. They named him Oliver Craig Thompson. When I held Oliver for the first time, something shifted in me. All the anger at Melissa, all the frustration with the situation. It didn't disappear, but it mattered less. This tiny person was my grandson, part of my legacy. He's beautiful, I told Craig, who was beaming with pride and terror. Thanks, Dad, for being here, for everything. Even Melissa seemed softer in those first days after birth, exhausted but happy. Focus on Oliver instead of on grievances. Maybe motherhood would change her. Or maybe it was temporary. Time would tell. I helped where I could. Brought meals. Held Oliver so Craig and Melissa could sleep. Bought necessities they couldn't afford. But I did it as gifts, not obligations. I maintained my boundaries while showing support. George, Melissa said to me one afternoon while I was holding Oliver, I know we've had our differences, but thank you for helping us. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was acknowledgement. You're welcome. He's my grandson. I want to be part of his life. I want that too, she said, and she seemed sincere. Over the next few months, a tentative peace formed. Melissa and I weren't close, but we were civil. Craig was stepping up as a father, working hard to provide for his family. Oliver was thriving, but financially they were drowning. Craig confessed this to me during one of our Sunday visits. Dad, I don't know how much longer we can keep paying $1,400 a month in rent. With daycare costs and baby expenses, we're barely making it. I'd expected this. What are your options? I've been looking at cheaper apartments, but most are in bad neighborhoods or too far from my work. Melissa won't even consider the ones I can afford. Craig, you're 24 now. 33, Dad. Right, 33. You're an adult with a family. At some point, what Melissa will or won't consider becomes less important than what your family needs. You're the one working. You're the one keeping a roof over Oliver's head. You need to make decisions based on reality, not Melissa's wishes. Craig looked miserable. She'll be so angry if I move us somewhere cheaper without her approval. Then she needs to get a job and contribute. I said bluntly, Oliver is 4 months old now. Plenty of women return to work after maternity leave. If she wants a nicer apartment, she needs to help pay for it. You're right, Craig admitted. I just don't know how to have that conversation without it turning into a huge fight. I felt for my son, but I also knew he needed to find his own strength. Craig, do you want my advice or do you want to fix this for you? I want your advice. Then here it is. Sit Melissa down with your budget. Show her the numbers. Explain that you're going into debt, trying to maintain your current lifestyle. Give her 2 options. Either she gets a job or you move somewhere more affordable. Let her choose. But make it clear that continuing as you are isn't sustainable. Craig nodded slowly. What if she chooses neither? What if she just refuses to discuss it? Then you make the choice for your family, because you're the parent, you're the provider. And sometimes being a good father means making unpopular decisions. It was advice I'd learned the hard way when Jennifer died. Craig had been 18, about to go to college, grieving his mother. I'd had to make hard decisions about finances, about his education, about our future. Not all of them made him happy at the time, but they were necessary. Craig left that day looking more determined. I hoped he'd find the courage to stand up to Melissa. 2 weeks later, Craig called me. Dad, I did it. I sat Melissa down with the budget, showed her everything. She was angry at first, but when she saw how much debt we've accumulated, she agreed to look for work. That's good, son. I'm proud of you. There's more. I told her that we need to either find cheaper housing, or she needs to earn enough to cover the difference. I gave her the choice, like you said. And she's job hunting. Seriously, she has 3 interviews lined up. I felt a surge of pride for Craig. He was finally taking control of his life. Melissa got a job 2 weeks later. Administrative assistant at a dental office. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid decently and had health insurance. Between her salary and Craig's, they were finally making ends meet. With both of them working, they needed daycare for Oliver. That's when I made an offer. I'll watch Oliver 3 days a week. I told Craig. No charge. That'll save you about $600 a month in daycare costs. Craig's eyes filled with tears. Dad, you do that? He's my grandson. I want to spend time with him, and I want to help you succeed. This way, everyone wins. Melissa was surprisingly grateful. George, that's incredibly generous. Thank you. Having Oliver at my house 3 days a week brought life back into the rooms that had felt so empty. I'd set up a nursery in what used to be the guest room, the room Craig and Melissa had pushed me into. Now it held my grandson, and the space felt purposeful again. Melissa and I developed a routine. She'd drop Oliver off at 7 a.m. before her shift. I'd feed him, play with him, put him down for naps, and she'd pick him up at 5 p.m. We started talking during those handoff times. Real conversations, not arguments. "George, I owe you an apology," Melissa said one evening, "for how I acted when we moved in, for demanding instead of asking, for being disrespectful. I was entitled and selfish." I was genuinely surprised. "What changed?" "Becoming a mother," she admitted, "and struggling financially. I realized how hard you must have worked to build what you have, how much you sacrificed for Craig. I took all that for granted." It wasn't a complete transformation. Melissa still had her moments of entitlement and frustration, but she was trying. That was enough. Today, 2 years after Melissa screamed that they were moving in whether I liked it or not, life looks very different. Craig and Melissa still live in my Oak Street property. They now know I own it, and they're fine with it. They pay their rent on time, and I've given them a modest family discount, 10% off market rate. Craig was promoted at his accounting firm. Melissa is now an office manager at the dental practice. They're saving money for a house down payment. Oliver is 2 years old, smart and funny, and the light of my life. Every Sunday, we have dinner together at my house. Sometimes Melissa even brings a dish she's cooked. We're not best friends, but we're family. Real family, built on respect and boundaries rather than demands and entitlement. People ask me if I regret how I handled the situation. If charging my son rent or refusing to let them renovate my house or exposing that I own their apartment was too harsh. My answer is always the same. No regrets. Because tough love worked. Craig learned to stand on his own feet. Melissa learned that respect is required, not optional. And I maintained my dignity and boundaries while still being present for my family. When Melissa yelled that they were moving and whether I liked it or not, I nodded. I let them think they'd won. But then I taught them, patiently, firmly, consistently, that life doesn't work that way. That independence has costs. That respect matters. That family helps family. But that doesn't mean tolerating disrespect or enabling bad behavior. The house Jennifer and I built together is still mine, filled with her memory and now with my grandson's laughter. Craig is a strong father and husband, finally stepping into his own power. Melissa is a working mother, learning to balance ambition with reality. Oliver is growing up in a family that loves him, supported by a grandfather who will always be there, but on terms that respect everyone involved. Sometimes the best thing you can do for people you love is refuse to enable them. Stand firm in your boundaries. Let them struggle just enough to find their own strength. And be there to support them, not rescue them, as they grow. They moved in thinking they were taking advantage of a lonely old man. Instead, they learned one of life's most important lessons. Respect isn't given because of blood relation. It's earned through actions, maintained through boundaries, and strengthened through honest communication. I nodded when Melissa made her demand. But what she didn't know was that my nod meant, "Okay, you want to play it this way? Let me show you how the game really works." And I won, not by being cruel, but by being consistent, not by punishing them, but by teaching them, not by cutting them off, but by maintaining standards. That's what real love looks like sometimes. Not always gentle, not always easy, but always aimed at helping people become their best selves. If this story resonated with you, please hit subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to set firm boundaries with family members? How did you handle someone taking advantage of your generosity? What would you have done in my situation? I'd love to hear your perspectives and experiences. Remember, helping family doesn't mean losing yourself. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're necessary. Real love sometimes requires being firm, not just being nice. Thanks for reading, and never let anyone, even family, disrespect you in your own home. Stand your ground with love, but stand your ground.